Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Joe Usual, and today I wanted to talk to you about why I feel it is perfectly okay to change the class and or subclass of the origin characters in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I've finished the game. It took me a little over 110 hours, and so I familiarized myself with the characters and the lore, and I'm going to be going through them one by one, and I'm going to do a deep dive, a very spoiler-heavy deep dive, into the reason that I feel like, due to the outstanding storytelling and exceptional world building done by Larian Studios, for the most part, it doesn't break the lore to make these individual characters into something else. I said this is extremely spoiler-heavy, so if you do not want to know where the characters came from, or where they're going in the story, please click off this video because you don't want to be here. But now, before I begin, let me remind you that early in Act 1, you receive an undead character by the name of Withers into your camp, where you're allowed to respec each and every one of your characters' classes as well as their stats to conform to whatever you so choose. So by switching them to, say, a cleric or to a wizard or a fighter to a monk, it doesn't matter. Your stats are going to be able to be changed, and they will be appropriate for the class that you choose. So that doesn't matter. What a lot of people are worried about is the storyline and how it's going to affect the storyline and how it won't make sense. But we're going to go through each and every one of these. I'm going to tell you why I feel like it does make sense and it's perfectly fine, with the exception of one, and that is Will. And the reason for Will is because he is a warlock, and so he is bound to a devil. And so to change him would change the storyline a bit. But I believe, because Larian Studios have such good writers, that I believe that they probably have thought about this. I have not experienced Will as a different character. He currently, in my second playthrough, is a cleric, and I have not met his devil yet. When I do, we'll see if maybe Larian Studios has explained it away with a couple of lines of dialogue. I expect that they probably will, because that's how good the story writers in this game are. This is one of the reasons why I feel like this is one of the best games I've ever played. But let's go ahead and start with Asterion right now. After 200 years of serving a cruel master, the vampire spawn Asterion is finally free. Free to walk the sun, free to chase power, and free to take revenge. Okay, so all of a sudden, he is a vampire spawn, and none of the limitations of a vampire affect him anymore because he has a tadpole in his head. Now, they built him to be a rogue, to be a creature of the night. But he is an aristocrat. There's absolutely no reason why he couldn't have been a wizard. There's no reason in the story why he couldn't have been, maybe he was a cleric. Maybe he was a warlock. Maybe he decided that he wanted to make a pact with the devil, and he got powers that way. There is no reason in this story where he starts or where he goes at the end, because at the end you do have a storyline. There is a thread at the end where you do meet his master, and you have to make a choice with that master to either keep him as a spawn or to make him into a full-fledged vampire. Okay, I don't think that's giving away too much, but the thing is, it doesn't matter whether or not he becomes a full-fledged vampire or not. Okay, no matter what he becomes, if he is a paladin, if he is a monk, if he is a rogue, if he is a cleric, if he is a wizard, it does not matter to his storyline. Lae'zel is a Githyanki fighter in the game. She starts as a fighter, but in the storyline, we see Githyanki wizards, we see Githyanki monks, we see Githyanki clerics, and we see Githyanki paladins. There's no reason why Lae'zel needs to stay a fighter. There's absolutely nothing in the story that says that this is how she has to be. Nothing. And that's this is actually the short explanation, because there are so many different types of Githyanki in this game that there's no reason that Lae'zel has to stay a fighter. Okay? Let's go to Gale. Gale is a wizard. Now, he was a wizard who was in love with and is still in love with the goddess of magic, Mystra. He went behind her back, and he did something that caused an orb to be placed into his chest, an orb of magic that is basically a nuclear bomb that you can set off at any time in the game, which will end the game. That's the big spoiler. Now, you can use him as a bomb at any point in time, which, if you've seen any of these supposed speed runs, the world, any percentage speed run, you use Gale, and you go to the end of Act 2, and you set off his bomb. But that's not, in my opinion, I'm going to say this right now, that is not a speed run because they don't go all the way to the end. And it's a speed run to the middle of the game. That's not the end of the game. I do not accept that as being a speed run for the entire game. I think that is a cop-out. And so anyway, the whole point is at the end of the storyline, Mystra reaches out to Gale and says, I want the crown of Karsus, and I want you to bring it to me, and then I will redeem you. Okay? Just because he was a wizard, and just because the goddess of magic wants him to get the crown of Karsus and bring it to her, does not mean that maybe he decided that he wanted to be something else. There's nothing in the story from the beginning, except, I mean, at the beginning he's a wizard. At the end, she wants him to bring her the crown of Karsus. There's nothing in the middle of the story that keeps him from being something else. Nothing. Absolutely nothing in the storyline. So that is Gale, and that's why I feel like you can turn him into anything. Shadowheart starts off as a cleric of Shar. Now, Shadowheart has her memory stripped of her. She knows what her mission is, and that is to get an artifact off of the off of the Illithid ship. Sorry, excuse me, not Githyanki ship, the Illithid ship. And she is captured. She had a tadpole put in her head. She does not remember anything else because her memory has been stripped. The further along in the storyline that you go, Shadowheart has more and more doubts as to her faith. So she makes the most sense for her to change what she is, because, spoilers obviously, 2/3 into the game, at the end or the middle of the second act, she has to face her faith, and she has to choose whether or not she wants to renounce her faith. So right then and there, she could have been on a different path all along from level 1, from the beginning of Act 1, because she had lost her memory. And at the end of Act 3, she finds out that Shar has kidnapped her parents and has kept her, and actually she was a victim of child abduction. She was a victim of child abduction, and her parents have been kidnapped and held hostage all these years, and she never even knew about it, which makes the goddess Shar, obviously a very evil god. And so Shadowheart has to make a choice. All the characters have to make choices all the way through this game, but Shadowheart has to make some of the most difficult choices in the game. But there's absolutely zero story from the beginning of the game until the end of the game that says anything that would cause her to have to stay a cleric, much less a cleric of Shar or a cleric at all. Matter of fact, she has the most reason to change of all the characters. All right, I'm going to skip over Will for just a second because Will is he's the most difficult of all of the characters. But Karlach was trapped in the Hells, trapped in Avernus for 10 years. She was sold into slavery, and her heart was replaced by an infernal engine, and it's slowly killing her. As a matter of fact, by the end of the game, you find out that she is going to die. There's absolutely nothing in her backstory that has to keep her as a barbarian. The only reason that she was a fighter, she fought for Zariel in the Nine Hells, and she killed demons, but that doesn't mean she has to be a barbarian. She could be a magic user. Hell, she could be a cleric. She could be anything you want her to be, and she could be a warlock. She hated what she had to do. She could have made a pact with the devil and gotten warlock powers. There's nothing in Karlach's backstory or her end story that says anything about why she would have to stay a barbarian. I mean, granted, I think that she makes an excellent barbarian. And as a matter of fact, I carried her through as a paladin barbarian fighter at the end. I did a triple multi-class with her, and because you can do the most amount of hits with that one, and it does the most amount of damage. But you don't have to do that. There's no reason why, lore-wise, you need to keep her as a barbarian. There just isn't. Matter of fact, all these characters are the only origin character, in my opinion, that has any reason to stay what he is for the storyline is Will. And that's because Will has sold his soul for power to save Baldur's Gate. Spoiler. To a devil, and she holds a contract, and that might have an effect on the storyline. If you change him into a cleric like I have done in my second playthrough, there may be some lines of dialogue that the creators of Baldur's Gate have written in to explain away why when he changes his class, she comes up, and when you talk to her face to face, she goes, "Oh, you changed your beliefs, or you changed your abilities, or something." I expect that there probably is some lines of dialogue that they've written in there to explain it away. If they haven't, then yes, this is the one origin character that might not make sense in the story if you change his class. But the fact of the matter is, guys, it does not change the story at all to change everyone into a cleric, or everyone into a monk, or everyone into a wizard, or everyone into a paladin. It does not make any difference for the story. The story is what it is, and the end of the story is the end of the story. Even the end threads of most of these characters don't matter. It doesn't matter what they are at the end because of the way that they've written this game. And that's why, in my opinion, this is one of the best games that I have ever played, because they've written it so well that you can be anything you want to be. They have made it, they've thought of everything. They've thought of every weird or unorthodox thing that you think you might be able to come up with. It won't break the game. It won't break the storyline, is what I'm saying. The only one it might affect is Will, like I said. But really, for most of these origin characters, there's no reason why you can't turn them into whatever you want. So when I did build a better whatever video before the game came out, I did build a better Lae'zel, and I think I did build a better Shadowheart, and I got some hate. I got some people going, well, it doesn't make any sense. It does make sense. Shar has stripped her of her memories and stolen her parents. So it makes sense in the storyline for her to be able to change her god. She has a problem with her faith throughout the entire storyline. So really, this is the one I got the most backlash about, was about Shadowheart. But the thing is, it makes sense. And as far as the other companion characters that you can get in the game are concerned, like Jaheira or Minsk, Jaheira is vague enough that she can be turned into whatever you want. And listen, she was in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. They were in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. And if you want to go and say, well, she was this in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, we're not talking about Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. We're talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and how it makes sense. Jaheira is old enough in this that she could have done anything she wanted to do. She could have become anything she wanted to be. So Jaheira being something else still makes sense, because even though she was something in her youth, she could have done something else in her adult years or in her later years. So she could have changed her entire class, because she retired from adventuring and she learned something new. You can explain that away very easily. And as far as Minsk goes, Minsk is with the tadpole in his brain. He's a scout. He is a scrambled egg brain anyway. So for him to become something else is not that big of a stretch. And as every single fight in this game is a puzzle unto itself, and that you need to figure out the easiest way or the most enjoyable way to play the game, I have no problems whatsoever. I see no issues whatsoever in the storyline for you to change your companions, your group, however you see fit. There's absolutely no reason, and it will not break the game. That's the most important thing, is it will not break the game. The storylines are written well enough that no matter what you choose, you're going to be able to get the full story without having any issues whatsoever. And they've done enough iterations of different decisions that it will not make a difference whatsoever, no matter who you choose or what class they are, no matter what their job is. You're still going to get the same end result. And that end, you can have up to 11,000, 12,000, 13,000 different end results. Because at the end of the day, when you finish the final boss, the end cutscene will have to do with the main origin characters that you played with, and they're going to answer their own story as to how you played them throughout the game. And each of their end stories only are as specific as how they were written. So it doesn't matter what their job is. They are vague enough at the end that it doesn't matter what they played the end storyline is going to make sense no matter what. That's how well written this game is. In closing, I hope that this allies your fears or your concerns, that somewhere in the story you might be able to break or confuse the story with your weird, your unorthodox, or your strange decisions, because it just isn't built that way. The writers of Baldur Gate 3 have thought of nearly everything that we could throw at them, which, and like I said, in my opinion, makes this one of the best games I've ever played. Anyway, guys, I hope that helped you out. Thanks for coming along for the ride in this discussion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And as I always say, I am my usual me. You be your usual you. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.